Hello everyone and welcome back to F1 Esports, and I'm so excited to be bringing you back F1 content as well. It's been such a long time since I last uploaded, and I am so excited to be back on the content grind, making Twitch, making YouTube, making live streams in general, and making videos as well. And you might be asking, well, this is not Bahrain. Bahrain is where we started the season. Quite simply, I do not have the Bahrain file on my PC right now, and I am working as hard as I can behind the scenes to acquire the Bahrain file. Quite simply, you have a few days to download the Bahrain file, or any file at all until the server takes it away. And ultimately I do not have the Bahrain file because it was from all the way back in November. I remember getting it on my PC, but I can't find it on my PC currently, so I'll keep on searching and then I'll be uploading the Bahrain highlights at a later date. But anyway, back to the main highlights, back to the main action here in Jeddah. It is Q1, it's the first lap after a very long break away from the rig and the competition as well. As we all know, there was a big gap between Event 1 and Event 2 in F1 Esports. So this first lap is all about getting back in the flow, getting back in a stable position, and ultimately being in your zen, in your flow mode as well. And we're going through Sector 1 here at Jeddah, one of the hardest on the calendar actually, and we do a low 0.3 in Sector 1, what I was very happy with, to be honest. And we go through the banking through the left hand, a hard back on the power, and we're getting oh so close to that wall on the exit as well. You can see the lap times are coming in thick and fast, flashing up. Basically every driver who goes over the start finish line is setting a new fastest lap time of the session, and we would like to join that list as we go through Sector 2, and it's going to be a 59.905. Well, it's a pretty successful second sector as well. A bit of a hesitation as we go into Sector 3, throwing the car in, putting the brake bars forward to 56%, as now we're going into the final apex of the lap. This has been a good lap to ultimately bring the car straight on the brakes, start to hook the car into the apex. A little bit of hesitation on the entry and a little bit of wheel spin on the exit will maybe hesitate. Ultimately flying up to the start finish line, minimizing the distance, and you can see that puts us provisionally P5 in our first lap here with a 26.004. Was a very representative time, but ultimately becomes P8, just showing the competitiveness and how just high class this field is, to be honest. It's so difficult, so extreme, so fast, and to be anywhere near the top you need perfection at its highest orientation. With that being said though, we're going out for a final lap in Q1 here. It's critical to nail it as we're flying down into turn 1, looking to hook up the inside curve, but instantly we do a small mistake going a little bit deep. You can hear by the hesitations on the downshift I was worried about the rear locking just from being too late on the brakes there, but ultimately now we've got a good opportunity to make it up right up against the wall on the inside there. As close as I would have liked to be, that's for sure. And now we're flying through the end of the first sector, trying to lift the throttle less, trying to carry more speed, more momentum, generate more downforce, grip, confidence as well, as we're flying towards the end of Sector 1 with a 281 through the banking, back on the power, a little bit of understeer there, and now we're half a temp up on our delta. And now through the right hander, we're going to be leaving a bit of time on the table, the front washing away from the wall, and ultimately not the grip and precision that we would have dreamed of before going into that apex. Still a lot of opportunity though to make up time, ground, and ultimately competition as this lap goes and unfolds. And we do that into Sector 3. Now we're a temp up, and I knew that this would be easily enough to get me through into the second part of qualifying. So we hit the brake, keep the car nice and straight, get to the apex. No heroics is needed in this situation. And now the car is nicely slowed down, and we're going to be ending the lap just under a tenth up on our delta. We'll see we're not even minimizing the distance, and easily up into P4, which shall be turning into P5 ultimately as the session concludes, and as every driver has finished their lap. So ultimately finishing P5 in Q1 was a good result, to be honest, especially considering my lap was not really perfect, and there was definitely some more risk and reward to be making up as we ultimately go through into our first lap of Q2. Turn 1, Turn 2 was pretty successful, not really on the limit, but not really far away from it either. You can see big hesitation as we go through the left-hander, and that is just not ideal at all. Completely suboptimal as we're going towards the end of the Sector 1 split here. And let's see what it is. It's going to be a 3-5-4, so still reasonably decent of a sector time, all things considered, but ultimately not what we need to be doing to get through into Q3. Qualification 3, otherwise known here, right up against the wall on the inside. Couldn't have really dragged anything more out of the car on that corner, and that was very satisfying indeed. Jeddah is one of the hardest tracks, but one of the most satisfying tracks if you do get it right. Through the left-hander, a little bit wide of the apex there. I know this lap will not be good enough to get me through into Q3, so it's a bit more about getting a time on the board and getting a delta time to work towards in my final run of Q2 here, rather than risking everything and going into the final run without any references, without any delta, and ultimately through the final corner. It was pretty successful, minimizing the distance up to the line, and you can see we do a 25.891, what ultimately puts us P12, but considering how many mistakes and lack of precision we had on our first lap in this session, I'm very optimistic for a big improvement as we unfold this lap coming across the line. 26 seconds, 25 seconds on the board, and now into turn 1, hit the brake just after the 100-meter board, down into third gear. We run a little bit wide, it's not optimal, it's pretty suboptimal, and you can see we barely made time out on the delta, and now on the exit, now we're going to throw the car through the left-hander. Again, hesitation, I turned in too early, this is not optimal, it's not fast, it's not precise, it's not what we need to be putting ourselves into Q3, so now we're pushing the car, we're going hell for leather, we're trying to extract the maximum performance and everything out of this car now. A 299 Sector 1, not good, not great, it's not what we need, and ultimately now hard back on the power, the rear squirming for grip as we're coming on the exit, and now through the left-hander, fully sending the car into the right-hander, and it's just not good again. It's just a disaster of a lap, where we're finding time on the delta, but we're not finding enough, we're not getting enough grip, and we're not driving how we should be. We're not at the limit of our potential, as now we fly through Sector 3, and it is all or nothing at this point. And you can see we found nearly just under a tenth through one corner alone. And this puts us in with a shot, this puts us in with a chance, and we have to send it in the final corner here. You can see we go a little bit deep on the brakes, good traction on the exit though, and we're finishing the lap 1.3 temps up. But to be honest, I knew it would not be enough, and it's not going to be enough. With P12, suboptimal, not great, not good, disastrous, to be honest. It's not a lap that I'm proud of, and it's definitely not a lap that I will be remembering for a long time in the future. And ultimately we go P14, but we're now on the grid with the hard compound tyres selected. Alvaro, Jed, two cars around us on the medium compound tyres as well. So we're not going to be looking to fight them at the start. You can see we covered Jed a little bit, but we're risking nothing. We let our car be in a very safe position through turn 1, turn 2, leaving plenty of room, and now we've lost the position, but he's on a different tyre compound, he's on a different strategy, so I'm not too worried about him. And you can see just managing the gap ahead, as it's going to be a little bit of carnage on lap 1. Jed goes around the outside of our Caraton as well, and we're able to hold position at this moment in time. And my goal, my strategy, and my mindset going into this race was manage the gap, manage the engine temperatures, manage the battery, manage the tyres in the opening laps of the race, and then see where it all plays out. Jeddah is known for the car, it's known for being difficult, but it's also known for having very good tyres at the end of the stint to be extremely beneficial here, as the track surface and how high speed it is requires a lot of confidence, grip, and precision from the tyres as well. So if you can manage your tyres early on, it can pay you off in a very nice way at the end of the stint. You see Ruben, who I think started second to last, is now all the way up and passing us on the medium compound tyres at the start of lap 2. But again, I've got basically a full battery. You can see me lifting and coasting just to recover the battery. Ruben is not my race right now. Ruben is not a concern, and ultimately if we want to maximise, if we want to get points, we need not to lose time fighting silly battles. You can see Ulas behind us now on lap 12, deploying a little bit of pressure to us, and we just have to cover the inside, but quite easily done. We just squeeze him, make his angle of attack super tight for the apex, and that's going to allow us to sweep around the outside. A little bit of wheel spin on the exit though, and ultimately we're able to retain our position, what is now turned into P9, as people have peeled off into the pit lane. And compared to where my tyre wear should have been, comparing to the practice races, the rear tyre wear especially was looking quite nice, to be honest. And as well, the battery was in a really optimal position and we're able to go straight into the pit lane this lap and looking to undercut a lot of these cars who are already on the medium compound tyres and go to the medium compound tyres myself. You can see through the pit lane, really treacherous, really tricky, really easy to speed as you go through this pit lane of Jeddah. And yeah, it's just so difficult to not lock up a tyre, front left or front right, as you're turning both directions. And it's very, very easy to get a speeding penalty there. But we avoided it, and now we're going to be going onto the medium compound tyres. And this outlap is going to be crucial. We're going to be about 1.2, 1.3 seconds behind Jake Benham up ahead, and we're going to need his DRS. As you can see now on the exit, we're just right on the limit there. And you can see 1.2 seconds, 1.3, and we're burning the battery. We have to send it through sector 1 here on the medium compound tyres, 1.2 seconds. We don't really know the grip yet, but we have to trust the car. We have to trust the process. Right up against the wall on the inside. Small lift of the throttle for the left-hander, and we got the gap down to 1.1 seconds. We're just burning all the battery. It's my only choice right now. If we don't get in his DRS, sure, we're going to undercut some cars just by having the freshness of the tyres, but it will not be optimal, it will not be fast, and ultimately getting in that DRS of Jake could be race-changing for us as we peel on into the left-hander, and we are going to be definitely well and truly inside of the DRS zone as now that is confirmed. Opening up DRS, you can see Nicola Thunge 1.4 seconds ahead, Jake Benham 7 tenths up ahead, and that is going to be allowing us to close in as we go into sector 3 here on the Jeddah circuit. And ultimately there's going to be a lot of cars peeling into the pit lane this lap. So using the battery, using the freshness of the tyre, and ultimately gaining so much time with the DRS wide open down these load of straights here to finish off the lap. We'll be changing our race, giving us 3-track position over many cars. As now, if you look to the top left-hand side of your screen, we shall be passing a lot of cars in the pit lane as they're reacting. A lot of cars going to the stock compound tyres, to be honest, but it's very aggressive. But yeah, I got told we should go to the mediums, and I think generally the mediums was a really good tyre to go to. But I of course knew with people like Ismail right now was very little point to fight them. They're going to be on fresh softs, they're going to be super aggressive, they're going to be willing to use the battery because they know the best chance of high optimal points is ultimately right now. So you can see, playing it smart, not wasting my battery, not really getting in the way of Ismail as well, because he's not my race, and ultimately my race is going to be with people like Jake, Nicholas, Jed, Josh, to be honest. But even Jed, I know he's on the fresh soft compound tyres, but now the tyres might start to wear, they might start to get closer and closer to the drop-off period. It's going to allow us to open up more opportunities to defend. But with Ismail, I knew was pointless. He would be so fast in this situation, was very little point to be defending against him. But ultimately now you can see on lap 16, up ahead, Bari has got wing damage, and you can see he's squeezing Ismail to the wall, and we go all the way around the outside, using my experience and knowledge of how racing unfolds to lose minimal time against Bari right there as well, and was able to capitalize on that and not take any damage, not waste any battery, and do minimal risk, as ultimately in a situation that had a lot of risk attached to it as well. You can see up ahead, almost going 4 wide as we're going down the straight. So many cars with DRS. So many cars do not want to be leading out of this corner with how powerful DRS is as well. You can see up ahead, we see Alfie Butcher, who also has wing damage. So we're starting to pick up the positions. He's got no battery, and now is the really critical moment for our race. We have to start deploying battery, be the hunter or be the hunted, down the inside of so many cars into the apex. And you can see we leave the space on the exit, we see the red arrow, and that's what we need to be doing. We need to not be racing in an extreme way. Pushing cars to the wall is not what we want to be doing. You can see now Ismail Fashi is going to go straight past us on the straight as well, making it 3 wide into turn 1 and sending it down the inside. You can see Jed sent it on the inside of us. We was watching that, we gave him the space as well. So even if I'm not looking behind, I'm always checking where that red arrow is, because even if it's not my fault that there's a crash, it's also still my responsibility to finish the race as fast as possible. So that naturally involves not being involved in silly crashes, even if they're not my fault. And ultimately now we are here on lap 18 in a very nice position, to be honest, especially considering where we started, especially considering where we were at the end of the first stint, and looking to pick up and maximise the rest of this race. Now, only just over a handful of laps to go as we're coming on to the end of lap 19, close to the start of lap 20 here in Jeddah. And now the slipstream battle and the chaos is really starting to ramp itself up. You can see Lifton coasting, just trying to save the battery, and up ahead of us is P2 in this race. So we have our eyes set on the podium paying positions up ahead of us. It's going to be so difficult to reach them though, but it's definitely not out of the question. You can see just trying to get some clean air, some cool air, some fresh air into my engine down the straights as well, not to be wasting my battery. And you can see the cars are really starting to close up, faking a move on Nicholas, but I think he was more looking at a move from Jake rather than defending from us. Right over the back of Nicholas on the straight though, all of us opening DRS, and you can see I'm putting a bit of pressure on the cars ahead to see if a gap will open up, to see if an opportunity will happen. You can see Fabrizio Donoso going defensive up ahead, Jake, Ben and Fabrizio Donoso making wheel-to-wheel contact on the inside and outside of the corner as well. Jake, I think, just about getting the move done up ahead. You can see I'm weaving this way and that, ultimately just trying to find a gap, trying to find a vision of what can happen ahead. Nicholas Longe sent it up the inside of Fabrizio Donoso into the left-hander, and to be honest, the fact both of them came out with a clean nose was quite impressive to say the least, as that corner is difficult to navigate by yourself all the time, let alone going side by side. You can see putting some pressure to Nicholas as well, using a little bit of the battery, just trying to be all over the back of him, trying to be a nuisance, and ultimately trying to get myself away from Josh Idaru behind us, who's putting a lot of pressure behind as well. So with only coming up to 4 laps left in this race, it's going to be a very difficult task. You see, we go defensive. Josh Idaru looks around the outside of us, but there's not really too much we could do. He has super fresh tyres compared to us, and probably quite a lot of battery, as we have been in the wars for this second half of the race. Since our pit stop, we have really been battling quite a lot, to be honest, and ultimately sending it down the inside of Josh, and we leave inside each other racing room, so it was quite good, and ultimately a little bit of a squeeze on the exit, but that is fine. It is normal. The white line is where the track is defined, and he was very smart to be like squeezing me to the curb when there's less traction. So to be honest, it was really good racing, and ultimately I decided to back out of it on the left-hander, as it would have been silly for me to send it up the inside from that track position, to be honest, and would have just put us all at risk of crashing in a really unnecessary way. You can see Jarno behind us deploying all of his battery down this straight, and now we are down into P11, so we still have a good chance of picking up some points, but ultimately, again, fighting Jarno in that situation when he's on much fresher tyres, probably has a lot more battery than me, is a bit silly. I could have used the battery, I could have used it once, twice to defend from Jarno, but then I would have been super vulnerable as the race goes on. So you can see our pace is pretty good, because we're all over the back of Jarno still, and we're able to defend from Alvaro Caraton, who's going around the outside of us. We're going to keep the inside line, ultimately late on the brakes, side by side, as Josh Idaru makes a small mistake up ahead, and ultimately allows Jarno to go up the inside of him, using the slipstream of Jarno down the straight, and ultimately trying not to waste too much of my battery. We're going to be going 3 wide in the braking zone, and disaster is going to strike. I hate to break it to you, but I hate watching this bit of the race. We hit the back of Josh when we were 3 wide, and you see we get pushed into the wall on the exit to top it all off. So going into a slow motion replay pretty soon about all of this, but yeah, you see our race is done, carnage unfolding. We're just trying to get out of the way of cars now, because we have a damaged wing. It's pointless to ruin other people's races in this situation. But you can see side by side in the braking zone, we were not 3 wide, but now you can see both left and right of me, cars sending it in, and I was too busy watching them. There was a Constantina up ahead, and so yeah, just hit the back of Josh, and yeah, was not great though. We were 3 wide, did not help my situation, but I take complete ownership and responsibility of hitting Josh there. And then you can see we get pushed into the wall on the exit, but yeah, I take responsibility, I complete ownership of hitting Josh. I apologize to him after the race as well, but yeah, I apologize also again, because yeah, it was my fault. Even if it was, let's say, unfortunate, it was still my fault, and I could have done more to avoid the whole situation. But that being said, from my point of view, it was a pretty good race. It was a pretty strong race, pretty smart race, minusing this incident with Josh, of course. But apart from that, a bit disastrous to be coming home in P16 in the second race of the season. But the potential was there, the pace was there, and ultimately we have a strong foundation to build upon, even if you have not been rewarded with the points in this race so far. So we get to dust ourselves off, pick ourselves up, and get ready to go again in Austria the very next day. So with that being said, Austria highlights will be uploaded tomorrow at 4 p.m. UK time. If you're watching in the future, so tomorrow, maybe the video's already uploaded, I don't know. But if you're watching the video as this video is published, that's a bit of a tongue twister. If you're watching this video today on Monday the 13th, then on Tuesday the 14th, then the video will be uploaded at 4 p.m. UK time. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Grazie, ciao, ciao, bye bye.